Welcome back to Planet 13. This is Cultivated Live. We are cultivated.news. For all the people that want to go to our website, sign up for our daily newsletter. It's awesome, and you will be a better, smarter cannabis person for having read it every day. Usually at 7:01 a.m. Eastern Time. That's what I'm trying to go with, 7:01. We are here right now with John Prentice of JointCraft. That's the new name of the company.
It's true.
Starting less than a couple weeks old, the name.
I think we officially changed it November 3rd or November 4th, somewhere in there.
So we're right on the cusp of a month.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Tell us what JointCraft is, and then from there we're going to go reverse and then forward. How's that?
Sure. Okay, that sounds like fun. So, we started an asset-light brand a few years ago. That was our kind of idea for getting into the cannabis industry for the second time after doing the whole software adventure. That's right, and it was called Pinners, focusing on really great handmade small joints. It was a bit of a roller coaster ride. We went through an insolvency with our first license partner, and some challenges with our second. And pretty soon we realized that for better or worse, we probably needed to stand on our own 2 feet. This whole brand thing wasn't going well, and we had the opportunity to take over what is formerly CannTrust in Vaughan, Ontario. So we now have a 60,000 square foot processing facility, our own license, and a new name, which is JointCraft. And it really is a kind of a testament to crafting great cannabis products with friends, and that's what we're doing up there today.
And the facility is amazing.
It looks like a spaceship.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I think, as far as build outs go, there's probably not too many facilities in North America that were built to these standards.
With good reason, probably.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be building any more.
But for you, it's great. For you and your purposes, it's amazing.
It's ours now, but I don't know if I would have done that.
That's right. Well, many thanks to the CannTrust shareholders. We greatly appreciate your contributions.
Well, they deserve thanks and patience, not from you, but from the previous round of things. Before we go back to your history in cannabis, talk a little bit about the origins of Pinners, because I've heard you describe, like you're an engineer, like how you actually thought about what you wanted to craft, what the challenge was from an engineering perspective, but also what the market opportunity was.
Yeah, I mean, it really spawned from two thoughts. The first thought was, kind of probably about 2.5 years ago, there wasn't quite as many smaller joint options. So a lot of the joints that you were buying were a single 1 gram joint in a tube. And quite frankly, I didn't want to smoke a baseball bat every time I bought a product. And the second thought was that it was rolled like shit. Half the time it was running, or the cherry was falling off, or it was clogging, and it just wasn't a good smoking experience. So that's really kind of the ethos that started Pinners, is we wanted to sit down and figure out, well, how do we make a smaller, more bite-sized joint for somebody that likes to have a few through the day, and that's kind of what we focused on, is making it thinner, making it still maintaining its length, enhancing the filter length to cool down the smoke and increase the flavor, and really thinking about how do we put the weed inside paper in such a way that it's going to burn consistently and evenly every time. And so that whole down the rabbit hole adventure turned into a manufacturing method and process that we've now scaled up, and today we're co-processing and making our own joints, but we're probably manufacturing around 3 to 4 million joints every single month out of Vaughan, Ontario today.
How did you do the R&D? I'm just curious. Were you looking at how finely ground the flower should be?
That's definitely part of it.
Yeah, I'm fascinated.
I mean,
by that.
It really started with figuring out, okay, well, what's the perfect shape?
Yeah.
So,
and did you look at the engineering, about?
Well, I guess it had
burning?
to start with learning how to make a rolling paper cone.
Okay.
Right, and there's lots of ways to do it. But what we found is if you go over to Indonesia or India and you watch how these cones are made, they're made on mandrels, which is basically a formed rod, and they wrap the paper around it to make the shape. And so it started on my 3D printer, printing all these different sizes of mandrels to make different shapes of rolling paper and hold the little filter as we twisted the paper around, until we got the proportions of the cone right to get the effects that we were looking for
cool.
when you're consuming it.
But then what about the mill?
That's the other half of it, is the actual putting the weed inside. So, you've got it's a big function of density. So,
Right.
If you grind weed really fine, it's going to be very, very dense. It's not going to fill up the cone very well. It's going to be short. It's going to make it stubby, and it's probably going to be super prone to clogging, because there's, when you burn cannabis, there's a lot of oil that's released, and you'll see the oil ring form around where the cherry is on the end of the joint. When the particle size is very small, it likes to bind. and that creates a clogging effect as well. The other challenge with milling that way is you get density separation. So when you're having all this product flowing out of the mill, all the really fine particles go down to the bottom, and all the big particles like to stay on top. So all of your THC is sitting at the bottom of the bin, and all the leaf matter is kind of sitting at the top of the bin. So through many experiments and lab tests and all sorts of iterations, we've developed methods to mill the product in such a way that we're minimizing the amount of waste, and we're ensuring that the density is perfect for the cone that it's going into, so that we can fill it out exactly to the specification that we're looking for.
We were working on this pre-roll project in a state in the U.S., and we brought a couple different products to market.
Yeah.
One being what would be considered as more high-end flower, all the way down to something that was more like keef derived. And then it got to market, and the smokability of the cheaper product had way better results. People's perception of how it smoked versus even value, people were so much happier with those as a result. And so I can imagine exactly what you're talking about is saying, how do we make sure that we have the right matter and the right format of the product to be able to match those two, so that the perception of value from the customer is experienced?
100%. It's so important. I think when a customer goes and buys a multi-pack of joints, if 2 or 3 of those don't perform when they smoke them,
Right.
They're probably not going to buy that brand of joints again. They're going to try something else. So, you're really putting it all on the line as a brand by when you put out your joints. They got to perform, and they got to smoke well. And I think we have this thing called a Smokosaurus Rex at the office. You could put you could put
It looks a lot like John.
It does. It's true. John or Adam, my co-founder. No, but it's a piece of lab equipment that actually smokes joints, so we can observe how that joint's being smoked down, and how much smoke is coming off of it, what's the resistance for airflow consistently. So we're really getting scientific about how we make amazing joints.
You are the cannabis industry's Mark Rober. Do you know who Mark Rober is?
I do know Mark Rober. Big fan.
So do you guys know who Mark Rober is?
No, I don't.
Because you don't have kids. And John, Mark Rober is a former NASA engineer.
That's right.
Who I guess kind of not cashed it in, but left to do basically YouTube projects, for lack of a better term. The most famous thing, he created an obstacle course for squirrels, and he engineered an obstacle course to see if they could learn enough to do this whole obstacle course.
Didn't he do the glitter bomb as well?
Yeah, the glitter bomb in the
glitter
package
bomb
is stolen out of this thing.
porch
So he does
fires.
this cool stuff. He made a
I've
dart board that moves, so you could always get a bullseye, but it's super complicated engineering. Anyway, that was one engineering project. I'm saying that you are a beautiful cannabis nerd.
Oh,
just
I
like Mark
appreciate
Rober
that.
is. But this isn't your first nerdy cannabis thing that you did.
No.
Right.
No.
Your first thing was
I'm just a
Ample
nerdy
Organics.
guy.
What's that?
I'm a nerdy guy.
Yeah. Yes. No, I meant that in the most positive, groundbreaking way. Talk about your sort of first foray into the cannabis industry with Ample.
Yeah, so with Ample Organics, there's a lot of little factors that go into the story, but I was working in medical devices, so I'd become a little bit familiar with Health Canada, specifically ISO 13485, which kind of regulates medical device manufacturing. The piece of it that was really important is it was my first time encountering a business that was regulated on the aspect of quality control and quality assurance, and having to mandate a quality system in place within a company. So I kind of learned to work within this framework. And fast forward a few years later, I had an opportunity to help out with the Peace Naturals application to get to become a licensed producer, and I wrote all of the record-keeping attestations and what we called Section 11, which is basically a quantitative and qualitative analysis of how your proposed record-keeping methods will meet the requirements of the regulation. And we submitted it, and obviously Peace Naturals got approved, and everything kind of went on from there. So I guess I became a little bit confident in my my knowledge around okay, this is the information we want to.
There were that many
store.
people that with any knowledge of it, so it was good.
Well, that was it. I think there were 4 licenses when I started Ample, right? And so I started a software company to focus on exactly that. How do we do record-keeping, inventory management, and transact in cannabis in a compliant way that not only meets Health Canada standards, but brings business efficiency as well? Because I think that's that's a common thread in the whole cannabis industry broadly, I think, is balancing regulations and balancing profitability and your ability to operate efficiently as an organization as well. So kind of being able to take both those sides and turn it into a software company is the Ample Organic story.
Are small fun joints more fun than software?
It's a different set of challenges completely. You know what I love? I love walking into the building in the morning and it just reeks like weed because we've milled probably 200 kilograms worth of weed that day, and you can just smell the terpenes in the air right to the lobby. It's the best. It's like walking into a candy factory for me. So
It's funny. I drove some of my kids too. Well, yeah, literally
candy factory.
I drove my teenage daughter and two of her friends to Buffalo a couple weeks ago. And you drive by, is it Medicinal Saints? The one that's...
Medical Saints.
Medical Saints. And you roll down the windows and the highway reeks of weed. Like, it's like...
Beautiful thing.
It's unbelievable. So I roll down the windows. Dad, put the windows down. It's freezing. And I was like, okay, I'll put them up now. Like, I
got my whiff.
The whiff of it is like so strong on the highway. You're going like 100 clicks and like... It's just awesome.
I mean, should we give them a call? Was it worth calling about?
I don't know. Like it's
was it pungent? Did it
tell on them?
Make your eyes water?
You should call them. It does smell good. But I don't. You're much more the connoisseur than I am. But what it actually smells like. So you mentioned. I'm going to get the facts. The fun facts right. You said 3 to 4 million a month.
That's right. 3 to 4 million pre-rolls today a month.
And is that like what is there an insatiable appetite for awesome little joints?
There's an insatiable appetite for joints. It's the fastest growing category in legal cannabis in Canada right now. Part of that I think is infused joints coming to market, and that's a very fast growing category. But even market share in pre-rolls in general is still continuing to grow. Now, that being said, I'll also say we're coming into winter, so there is a slight seasonality to it. You're going to see bigger pre-roll sales in the summer than you do the winter. But one of the opportunities I had in the last few weeks is I took some sales data, national sales data in Canada, and being a nerd, I sat at my desk and I hand-coded the number of discrete units or number of joints in every single SKU in this data set, which was for 3,000 SKUs or something.
Busy day.
Very busy day. Yeah. But the cool thing about it was I was able to derive approximately how many joints are being sold month to month, coast to coast in Canada, actual individual joints. And the number is about 35.5 million. So
10% of that is not nothing.
I was like, that's one per person in Canada.
That's
of
right.
Total population.
Per month.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
per month.
Yeah.
Per month.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's like 375 million joints a year, approximately, that are being sold in Canada. So I think 3 million joints a month isn't that many. We're just getting started. Right. I'm stoked for the future. And I think we can go a lot bigger than that.
Can I ask a business question? Because Jeremy's the one in business school. But like, when you think of that, like, what if you're saying 3 to 4 million a month of 35 million total per month in the country? Like, how many other people are making the rest of that? Is it like another 1,000 companies, or is it another 10?
Listen, I think a lot of people are doing them internally. Making joints kind of in-house with knock boxes or however they do it. Unfortunately,
so when you do the word knock box?
Yeah, knock box.
Is that the thing
it's a little shaky thing? Yeah, we don't use vibration at all. We're very anti-vibration because again, that whole density separation thing and like happening inside your cones. These are like the physics pieces, right? So we don't do that. We use compaction. We make sure that every single piece of weed that goes into that cone is compacted equally to the piece that went before it, and we compress that cone like 9 times in the process of its manufacture to make it perfect. So I think, listen, if you're making 35.5 million joints are being made right now. So a lot of those are being made. There's some other co-manufacturers. There's some larger scale guys that have great brands are making a lot of joints every month, and there's some small guys that are making a few. The reality is our joints are better, they're cheaper, and if they gave us a call, they'd put a heck of a lot of margin right back into their business. And not only that, they get a consistent supply.
It's a really hard thing to not do at scale in your own organization.
Yes.
Like, it has so much potential, and it can really supplement the offering of, especially if you are already maybe a flower production, and being able to repurpose certain product that might not fit the quality standards that would go in terms of packed, but like, it is incredibly difficult to scale.
It's super labor intensive, and I think like I like to call it a deceptively simple thing. It's just making a joint. How hard could it be, right?
Yeah.
It's deceptively simple. And I think companies can do a lot better by outsourcing it. Frankly, it saves money. It's going to be a better joint. It's going to be delivered to your door, and that's really what we want to focus on, is not only our brands, but enabling other brands to succeed with a great product and market as well. And we're super stoked to get into edibles a little bit too. This is kind of something else that we're doing, is starting to get into the gummies side of things and manufacture those as well. So
I wanted to ask about that, both about the gummies, but other products, because I was at the Vaughan facility,
Yep.
and there were some cool products that I've also seen online. Tell us about what else is
coming down the
Yes.
pipe
that you can share.
Okay, so we're gummies is one thing, hard candies is another. We've got some very cool experiments happening in that area right now. On the whole pre-roll inhalable side, I've got every shape, size, and combination of pre-roll you could potentially imagine coming in the next 6 months, from your keef coated, distillate infused, super flavorful, to glass tipped with hash and really elegant, to your standard flower pre-rolls. So we're really doing the full gamut. I think that where we're super excited to be at MJ BizCon and in Las Vegas in general for the show is, like, I think packaging innovation is an area that we're going to see a lot of movement in the next little while. I think having a quality joint but having innovative packaging is going to be really key. And we're also super stoked to kind of keep our eyes out for any new innovation, like maybe someone's making a wood tipped cone, like that, or something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been awesome.
That's great to catch up. It's been too long. I feel like we haven't done this in a while.
I know, but it's so good to hear. Well, it's so good to dive in. I think Jeremy said, like, the R&D part. Like, that is what it takes. And that must be what it takes in every industry. It's just more fun to talk about it when we're talking about producing something net new.
We all like
think
the
it's-
product.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was just gonna say. I mean, it's just we're consumers. We can say that, and it's like I think a lot of products in the early days were not made by consumers.
That's right.
They're terrible products, and just having people like yourself listen to us and get feedback and like actually make things we want to use is awesome.
Yeah,
something we're happy to support.
We put our name on every bag we make, and we really want that quality to shine through. We say quality in, quality out. We mean it. It's incredibly important. And I think when you look broadly at what's happening using the Canadian industry as an example, I mean, these large-scale, publicly traded, with a CEO that doesn't live in Canada, has never been to Canada, has never visited a factory. I mean, they're getting the results of those decisions.
Right.
And you're starting to see the small guys, the operators, really start to stand out, become profitable and sustainable. And I think long term, we know where this goes.
Yeah. Well, John, as always, thank you. I feel like it's coming full circle. I was telling our producer, Matt, that early days of previous iterations of what we're doing now, like, you were one of our first friends. So thank you for that, but also thank you for this, and good luck with everything going on in Vaughan.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jay.
You
Really
got it.
appreciate it.
We'll be right back from Planet 13 and Cultivated Live with Thomas Winstanley of Theory Wellness. We'll talk all about their operations, and I'm going to try to get the states right. Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont, and maybe soon New York. I guess he'll tell us that when he comes on. So we'll be right back with Thomas Winstanley.